in here.
Does the town know it's muted?
Thank you.
Apparently not.
I turned it on. My apologies. I started off, we're experimenting with some technology, so bear with us, please. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. So the listening session is an opportunity for both committee and select board to hear thoughts, opinions, and concerns from town residents, lake property owners, lake users, and others regarding voting, other public usage, safety, and adequacy of the current bylaw. While questions about the process and timing, etc., will be entertained, unfortunately, will be primarily a listening session. We won't have answers to other questions at this moment. So with that, I'll turn it over to Rita.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Carol, member of the Shutesbury Select Board, joined here this evening by Eric Stocker and Melissa O'Neill. We are your Select Board. So before we begin, I just wanted to take this opportunity to express our appreciation for our retiring town moderator, Paul Lyons, who is going to moderate this evening's discussion. Paul has served admirably in this position for the last 6 years, and we want to acknowledge his service. Borrowing from a description of a good town moderator that I found for another community, Paul has been superb as the grand conductor of our town meetings, setting the tone, keeping it moving, balancing the discussion, and conducting the vote. He put in the time needed to understand how town meeting rules itself, consulted with other town moderators on a regular basis to learn the ropes and to share stories and problems, and spend time learning how to apply the rules of town meeting. I hope you will join me in a round of applause to thank Paul for his 6 years of service.
Okay.
Yep.
Hello, everybody. So those that I haven't met, I'm Matt Barowick. I'm the chairman for the committee, and I've been coming to Lake Wyola for over 50 years. My family's been there for over 75 years, and I'm happy to say that we reside at Lake Wyola now. My family, we lived all over the country and finally made our way back home, and we get to live and enjoy the great resource of the lake. I have a passion for the lake and the community at large, and more importantly, the safety of the lake, which is why I ultimately joined the committee. And so I'm looking forward to helping out any way I can in that regard. The committee, we've been meeting since about September, and everybody on the committee has been doing extensive research into bylaws, looking at great ponds, looking at everything that goes on out there. I probably looked at over 300 different lake regulations across multiple states around New England, so Vermont, Massachusetts, Connecticut. Also familiarize ourselves with all the different laws in all the different states. And there's an abundance of materials that are out there that regulate lakes, and we've been taking all that in. That's led to some very hearty discussions over the last, several months, and I think that's what brought us all here tonight. We're all here to kind of understand what everybody's opinions are and thoughts, and we want to bring those thoughts back to our committee as we continue our discussions and deliberations on the topic at hand. Just to kind of give a backdrop of what we've been doing as a committee, We've had multiple meetings to discuss the bylaws, looked at those one by one. Spent probably 4 or 5 meetings doing that. We also had 2 meetings where we had Chief Burgess was there, talked about law enforcement and how we would welcome more law enforcement on the lake to enhance our safety as a whole. I've also spoken with our environmental police that's in jurisdiction for Lake Wyola. Had a good conversation with him about the safety and what our committee is doing. He'll have some presence at the lake this summer as well. So we're looking forward to that, which is good. And then lastly, we've been talking a little bit more about education and what we're gonna focus on. Signage that we can use, where we should post the signage. We think that's awareness is one of the biggest keys for both newcomers to the lake, as well as reminding Shutesbury residents what they should know about the rules and regulations for the lake as well. So a lot of good hearty discussions that way. So I'm looking forward to hearing what everybody has to say and share tonight. We'll take that back to the committee, and thanks for having me here. Thank you.
I failed to introduce, Kristen Burgess, who's our police chief, not on the select board, but, Kristen is joining us here tonight.
Okay, this on? Yeah. All right, there we go. Good evening, everybody. As you heard, I'm Paul Lyons, the outgoing town moderator. This evening, I'll be facilitating this listening session. My goal in doing so is to provide a safe and a civil setting in which the select board and the review committee can hear as many voices and opinions as possible concerning safety at Lake Wyola, specifically related to boating and other recreational activities. This is a listening session, not a discussion. If you have specific questions about the process itself, for example, what the goal of the effort is, who will be making final decisions, what the time frame is, questions along those lines. We will attempt to answer those this evening. But if you have other questions or specific questions or comments that are not directly related to the process or the topics and issues that the review committee is addressing, you can submit those directly to the select board, either in a letter or via email. selectboard@shutesbury.org. So anyway, this evening, we really need to stay on task. There's a lot of interest in this topic, obviously, and we want the session to be as productive and efficient as possible. With that in mind, and to be fair to everyone who may want to speak, I will ask that you keep your remarks focused on the purpose of the session tonight. Please try to organize your thoughts before you get up to speak, so you can then limit your comments to somewhere in the neighborhood of 2 to 3 minutes, if possible. I don't want to cut anybody off, especially if you're, really saying some good meaty stuff. But if I feel like you're starting to ramble or stray a bit, I may step in to try to get us back on track. If time permits, after everyone has had a chance to speak and you have more to say, then maybe we can have a round 2. We have to be out of here pretty much by 8:30 this evening, though, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. So before we begin, just a few ground rules and procedural comments. As you heard from Melissa, this is a hybrid meeting. So it's both in person and via Zoom. It is being recorded, as she said, so be aware of that. We're likely to have people submitting comments to the group via Zoom. So depending on how many of those we have, we may decide to alternate essentially between live comments and people submitting them via Zoom, and hopefully we'll be able to hear them from this speaker in front of me. If you, at least for the in-person group, if you want to speak, please come up to the microphone out in front of me here. And you can line up, if you have something to say after the present speaker, we can have a line of people right there. We'd like you to identify yourself. In particular, it would be very helpful for the committee and the select board to know if you are a lake resident. I put that in quotes because I know some people think that's a derogatory term. I don't. But it's useful to know if you basically are a homeowner at the lake. If you are a Shutesbury resident that does not live at the lake, it would be helpful to know that. If you're a lake user that's not from Shutesbury, that's another category. And then you may be someone else, someone just passing through that decided this would be an entertaining night, which it might be. So anyway, please identify who you are, so that we can kind of put your comments in the proper context. Please address any questions that you have. Again, this is mostly about your comments, and it's for people up here to listen. But if you do have questions related to the process, again, that we will try to address, please address them to me. I will then determine if they are appropriate questions for this forum, and if so, then I will direct them to the proper person to try to address them. Finally, I would ask that we all be respectful of each other. We're very likely to hear a diversity of opinions tonight, some of which may not be in line with our own, some of which may be, very passionate. And that's life in a democracy, essentially. So I would ask us all to be respectful of each other. There's no need to react to someone else's comments. It's just their comments. So you can just take it in, let it be, and try not to react, okay? So,
May I give some instruction to?
yes, yeah, now we'll get some instructions for the people that have joined by Zoom and how you can ask your questions or make your comments.
For those who are participating by Zoom, we'll have you use the raise hand feature, and we will work your comments into the ones here in the room. We will call on you. The room should be able to hear you speak. If we go down in any way, I would ask you to email us your comments so that you'll be able to be part of our process. Again, use the raised hand feature, and we'll have you do the same as the people in the room. Tell us who you are, and if you're a lake resident, all the other options that Paul laid out. So just that'll be the process for Zoom. People in the room can't see you, but we should be able to hear you. Okay? All right, thanks for the instruction. Oh, yeah, so just so if you're not sure where the raise hand feature is, thank you. If you look down at the bottom of your screen or on your phone, there's something called React. And what it does, it gives you many options to raise your hand. And it'll give you options, raising hand, there's applause and all of that. So we'll ask you to do the raise hand. Thank you.
Okay, so now it's your turn. So anyone that would like to make a comment or ask a procedural question, right up to the microphone. You know you're out there.
This is our public comment time?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Megan McLeod. This is my daughter Anna. She's gonna speak after me. I'm a very proud lake resident, 4th generation. And I feel like instead of working towards improving the safety of the lake, this process has divided the lake. And I really think we need to focus on safety measures as a first step, and then revisit the need to modify the bylaws after safety measures have put in place and seen through. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Anna McLeod, and I am 11 years old. And Hello, everyone. I am Anna McLeod, and I am 11 years old, and I am a 5th generation resident of the lake. What I love about the lake is that I can do things here that I would never be able to do anywhere else. I am able to safely ride my bike around the lake because I know people will help me if there is a problem. My sister and I kayak and paddleboard to my grandmother's house all summer long and feel safe because we know everyone is looking out for us both on and off the lake. Also, I also love to water ski and wakeboard. And do that during the slower times on the lake because I'm still learning. The lake is a special place. I love that I have freedom here and that people are nice to each other. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Anna. Okay, step right up.
Hello there. My name is Jess Evans. I've lived in Shutesbury for 9 years. I do not live directly on the lake, but I also serve as the assistant director at Morse Hill. We are the summer camp property that is located directly across from Lake Wyola. And we've been there 25 years, not me personally, but Morse Hill has been there 25 years. Morse Hill uses Lake Wyola very frequently, almost always on weekdays. In the spring and fall, we bring groups of kids to the boat launch to work together building rafts and sailing them. We start off the summer season with all staff training in the lake on boating safety, canoe rescues, and lifeguarding training and certifications. Our counselors in training, local teenagers, also do portions of their lifeguard training at the state beach. All summer long, we bring campers to the lake for canoeing, raft building, swimming, and more. Every time we visit the lake with kids, we work hard to impress upon them the need to be good neighbors. We talk about using quiet voices at the boat launch and on the lake because voices carry. We follow all state and camp regulations regarding PFDs and boating safety. We work hard to park our trailers out of the way of other visitors at the boat launch. We appreciate being part of Shutesbury and Lake Wyola community, and we feel strongly about being good neighbors. With this in mind, what we'd like to see at Lake Wyola is this continued community spirit of being good neighbors. Almost everyone we encounter when we bring students or campers to Lake Wyola are kind, curious about what we do, and supportive of our efforts to keep kids connected to outdoor experiences. Rarely, though, we encounter fast boats that come closer than we're comfortable with, and large wakes that can be problematic for new canoers. Our biggest priority on the lake and in all that we do is keeping the children in our care safe. We want to know that others, especially in motorboats, are looking out for us as we look after the children in our care. Hearing of an accident through the grapevine last year enforced our hypervigilance around motorboats while on the lake. Our hope is that Lake Wyola continues to be a place where safety regulations are frequently enforced. Visitors are clearly informed of the need for these regulations in Shutesbury's bylaws, and the community works together to keep everyone safe.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Glenn Stockton. I live stone's throw from the lake, at the corner of Lakeview and Lots Pond. We've lived there full time for about 5 years, and I use the lake in personal powered watercraft. And I just have a comment mostly about the regulations and the ones that are posted. They are, it says currently that boats cannot go more than 5 miles an hour from on the sign at the boat launch from dusk to dawn. And in your write-up, it's sunset to sunrise. But there is a kind of an unwritten, unspoken agreement, I guess, among the lake residents that boats shouldn't move at water skiing speed until 8 o'clock, which I fully appreciate. And I would, at the very least, like to see that written on the signboard, because as more and more boats come from not around the lake or brought in at the boat launch, they feel as though they can move at speed anytime. Which, you know, when I'm out paddling or rowing, is problematic for me. So 8 o'clock would be fine. 9 o'clock would be even better, because I mean, it seems like it's kind of an arbitrary number. And 9 o'clock would allow for more people to enjoy non-motorized activities.
Thank you. Okay, one more comment, and then I'm gonna take one from online. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi, I'm Rich Clark. We're at 28 Gaslight Lane, and our family has been there for, my wife's family, for a good 80 years. One of the reasons I wanted to kind of talk is this, now that we're beginning the conversation about boat safety. I was sitting at our dock with friends when we watched this accident happen. And part of the reason I want to stand up is when I look around at this room, what I'm seeing are people that are families that have kids, grandkids, family members, and everyone, if you ask us, we're here to make sure our kids and our families are safe. So as we begin the conversation on boat safety, we want to make the lake a better place. The challenge is to make sure that we enforce when the bad eggs are coming out, we want to, as a group, get that handled. I've been involved in athletics as a referee for years. The rules are important, and I think one of the challenges that we all have as a group, protecting our families, is we do allow people to come in from outside the lake, correct? The difficulty is, if you look at everybody here, I would say 95 to 98% of us follow the regulations and care about it. But I think that's the big opening that we have. We're getting folks coming into our lake and making us look bad when we don't want that. I've actually seen people on this lake stop people who are doing things from outside the community and saying, stop. So anything, I'm just here to say, we all support, at least I know I'm 100,000% want to support this whole boat safety thing, and anything that we can do, and I know my family would love to support, anything we can do to make this, you know, the lake safer for all of us and all of our families, so.
Thank you.
Okay, the one online? Yep, Cheryl. and then we can ask for Jennifer.
Okay, we have an online person, Carol. If you can hear me, you can unmute yourself and provide your comments.
Carol, did you hear Paul? There you are. Go ahead and unmute him. You can make your comment. You're muted.
Bear with us.
Yeah.
Hey, Carol, whenever you're ready.
You're muted. I can't unmute her. I wish you gave us that as an option. Oh, you said go on, Carol. We can go to the next comment up here.
Okay, we'll continue. Go ahead.
I have Carol's comments if you like to do that.
I got it now, I think. Can you hear me, Paul? Paul, can you hear me?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can anybody else hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
All right, go ahead.
User error.
Okay.
Carol Samuels, South Laurel Drive. I am not against motorboats. I want to say straight out, because there have been some misconceptions about that. I love the squealing of water skiers going around in the summer. So I'm not against motorboats. What I am for is safety. And that's always been my approach to our multi-use lake. I've lived on Lake Wyola for 25 years and have been active 25-year member of the Lake Wyola Association, 14 years on the board, 8 as a clerk, 6 years as a director. Tonight, I testify once again to increase the safety of the lake by telling my experience as an advocate for safe multi-use activities. The crash of last summer was not an isolated incident that came out of nowhere, but it was the manifestation of my worst nightmares. As a paddler, the fear of being run over by a speedboat going 30 miles an hour, or clotheslined by a tow rope, or capsized by a wake is ever present. I have had speeding boats come dangerously close to me on many occasions, and their approach from behind leaves me helpless to avoid a collision. I was paddling with my 80-year-old father one summer when a boat passed too closely and their wake flipped my dad's canoe over. We were only 40 feet from shore, and happily he could swim in. He never paddled with me again. No matter how respectful many boaters are, we all know that it only takes one to end or alter my life. For that reason, I and many others abstain from paddling at all during peak times. If accident numbers are low, which we don't have data on, it is in large part because the only way we can be safe is not to swim, not to paddle, not to sail, or take our pontoon boat out when motorboats are speeding around. That's what keeps the numbers down. We have no choice. It's self-preservation. The Lake Wyola Safety Committee has not met since before COVID. There hasn't been a functioning safety committee which represents all users' experiences in a long time. My safety issues have been dismissed. I've been called names and bullied. I've been told there is not a boat problem, but only a swimmer problem. Just this August at a membership meeting, as I was voicing my concerns and those of others who dare not speak out or even attend, I was interrupted by the president's unelected safety czar and a member of the board. He stood up, pointed at me aggressively, and started to scream at me that I was a liar and I was to shut up. His face was red and his voice was elevated. I felt threatened. I was never happier to have the police chief standing 2 feet away from me. It's easy to imagine boaters with that much resentment, rage, or fear of losing something they have had up until this time, being triggered by a paddler or swimmer and veering into me, or swamping me because I can't have or swamping me because they cannot have full access to the entire lake anytime they want. It's exactly what happened this summer when a speeding boat crashed into a stationary fishing boat. Imagine the chilling effect that outrageous display at a Lake Wyola Association membership meeting. The damage is already done. Many join me in saying we do not feel safe to share our experiences with the association or the town officials. Yet many sent letters or anonymously called Chief Burgess. Several of us will speak tonight, and we will not be silenced by the fear. Decades of Lake Wyola Association indifference has created a culture of fear fueled by self-proclaimed privilege of a small group of voters who refuse to even talk about it or consider options of compromise that would show empathy for and understanding of the majority of users. Even avid water skiers have said they don't go out when it's not safe to do so. I have come to the conclusion that safety on the water while paddling and motorboats going 30 miles an hour are incompatible. There are many equitable and enforceable solutions. I ask the select board to recognize the dangers that exist, especially during peak usage in summer months, and take on this issue as a public health and safety issue, just as you would in any other neighborhood in Shutesbury. I asked the select board to take on the bylaws of other towns with small lakes and to fund any plan that helps to educate users and enforce the existing boating safety laws of the state of Massachusetts. I asked all Lake Wyola users to approach safety with understanding and compromise. We can all enjoy the lake and all feel safe doing so, even if it is not at the same time of day or the same day of the weekend. Many common sense solutions for safety are available to us if we just remain open to them and work for all people's safety. We're all in this together. I thank the select board for all you do for the town and for bringing us together tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
You can have another comment whenever you.
Okay, yes, Judy. And well, first of all, I just want to make sure, was everyone able to hear in the back Carol's comments? Okay, so it's loud enough. All right, thank you.
Hi, I'm Judy Rummel, and I've been on the lake for 21 years. And, the letter sent to the voting safety committee stating how well voters, swimmers, and et cetera coexist under the current bylaws sounds like the perception a person would have sitting up in a 4,000-pound, 18-foot fiberglass hull power boat traveling at 30 miles an hour. Being down in the water and at the water line, swimming and paddling is a much different view. For 21 years, I've been swimming in chest-deep water whenever it appears that there are fewer boats out, and never without the fear of being chopped in half by the boats flying by within 70 feet of shoreline. I do not want to trust my safety to voters paying attention or doing the right thing. In Massachusetts, the voting law summary is in a section called Prohibited Operations, with the subtitle, "Following operations are extremely unsafe and are prohibited." One law reads, operating at greater than headway speed within 150 foot of swimmers, water skiers, etc., is prohibited. Another states operating a motorboat within 150 foot of a swimming area, public or private, is prohibited. Neither of these two prohibited operations are visible in our bylaws, on our safety cards, or in any signage, nor are they recognized by the voters on our lake. When I brought these laws up to our committee, many of the members did not know these laws existed, and yet they didn't want to make them known in our bylaws or part of our safety education cards or signage for the safety charge from the select board. I'm asking the select board to amend the bylaws to make these two state laws visible and explicit in our bylaws and on our safety cards and in our education, so that these laws, which can protect us from potentially fatal consequences, can be shared as broadly as possible. Hopefully, then people using the lake can be better educated and the lake can be a safer place for everyone to enjoy. Thanks. I have one other thing. Should I wait until other people?
Go right ahead.
Okay, this is about wake boats. I don't know that. While doing research for the safety committee, I found very disturbing information about wake boats that I'd like to share. Wake boats have tanks at the back which can take on thousands of pounds of lake water to increase their weight, which pulls the stern down and the bow up. Along with powerful motors pointing the propeller at a downward angle, the boats produce 4 times larger, stronger waves than a motorboat. The scientific studies are finding that they can be devastating to an ecosystem. The wakes can damage docks, swamp other boats, endanger swimmers, and destroy waterfowl nesting sites. The angle of the prop causes algae blooms by stirring up sediment and reintroduces phosphorus and nitrates into the water column. Many scientific studies have been done. The summary recommends at least 500 foot from docks and shoreline and at least 15-foot depth. An industry study claims that 200 feet is safe, but that's based on no peer-reviewed study and it's sponsored by Mercury Marine by computer modeling. I'm having a hard time understanding why someone who loves the lake would use a boat which creates so much damage, and I'd like the town to look at this issue. I have lots of information if you'd like to learn more.
Thank you. We have another comment from one of our Zoomers. Charlene, can you hear us? And if so, could you unmute yourself and make your comment.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good, and I can hear you. I feel like an old timer because our family has used Lake Wyola for over 60 years. And my husband and I purchased our home over 40 years ago when our children were 2, 4, and 6 years old. And we purchased the home for a number of reasons, but the main reason was the multi-functionality of the lake. We have been boaters all our life. We've boated at Whitingham, we've boated up at Lake Winnipesaukee and on the river, etc. And Lake Wyola is just a wonderful, wonderful place for multifunctionality. And in all our years, and I'm not saying this to be contradictory, we have felt safe. What you have to do with a multifunctional lake is use good sense and be respectful of everyone, whether you're a boater, a non-boater, a swimmer, whatever your feeling is of what you're doing out there. And I feel at Lake Wyola, my family has experienced that. And I want to say that over the 60 years that I have been there, this most recent accident is the most serious one that I know of. And it was serious, and nobody denies it. My husband and I were on the deck when that boat went by, and we also heard the noise. But that is not typical of Lake Wyola. And I think it would be unfair to say it is, because many of us who have lived there a long time have not had those experiences of being fearful. I have a daughter who's used the lake for over 30 years. She's a paddle boarder, she's a kayaker, she's a swimmer, and she goes out when she knows she feels it's comfortable for her to go out. So I think, honestly, people being respectful of one another is the key here, and education is the most important key. And somebody said this earlier about people who come in who don't know the rules. Many of us, I know our family has done it, I know safety committee members have done it, I know directors of Lake Wyola Association have done it, and I know citizens on the lake have done it. We all want the lake to be safe. And when you see someone not doing what they need to be doing, then you try to be respectful, go up to them and speak with them. Now, some of us have experienced some rudeness, but you just don't let that stop you. And I can tell you one quick incident of 2 young girl swimmers who came from the state beach. They were out in the boat lane. My husband and I stopped. We spoke to them very respectfully and said, "You're too far out. This is dangerous for you. It's dangerous for the boaters." And they were quite rude to us. So we thought, instead of engaging in an argument with them, we'll just sit there until they go back. And they finally did. But you have to be vigilant. You have to be careful. You have to try to be respectful to one another, because that's what boating safety and swimming safety is all about. And I want to thank the select board and the committee. This is something that took a lot of work just organizing, and these people have given a lot of time. So kudos to everyone on the town who has worked so hard on this, because I think they deserve a great deal of respect as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Wallace, and I've lived at the lake for about 21 years or so. Everyone in this room is my neighbor. And I feel that, so I want to go on record to say that I'm not, I have maybe a reputation of being a little bit of a whistleblower, but it comes from a good place in my heart anyway. I do not want to ban motorboats. I don't know where that rumor got started. That didn't have anything to do with anything that myself or people that I know are saying that there's a move to get rid of motorboats. So I want to go on record to say that too. I want to thank the select board and the police chief, who was also very supportive of trying to get us all together. And that is a beautiful thing. Thank you.
So I have two comments or commentaries. One is about the voting safety committee that made in an unscheduled vote, 5-4 vote, decided not to recommend any changes to the bylaws to the select board. This was early in their process, this motion. The majority of the committee decided that our law was clear as written and adequate. The minority believed the motion was rushed and that more research was required. That minority was overruled. Since that vote, I wondered how our bylaws adequacy can be decided fairly when everyone has their own necessarily personal and biased views of safety and adequacy. Also, the committee's charge wasn't to evaluate the bylaws' clarity, it stated the bylaw is clear as written. It was about measuring our current bylaw against conditions happening. So one way I thought would have been to look at bylaws of other towns that have lakes similar in size to Lake Wyola. Ours is recorded as being 129 acres. I'm not sure all of that is navigable because it involves coves and the marsh, but I don't know how it's measured. If such research was conducted, I didn't witness it discussed in any meetings, and I attended all the meetings as a guest. So I don't know where that research existed in their discussions. I didn't hear it discussed. But I surveyed 15 other towns in the state that had lakes of similar size. On average, it ended up being about 119 acres, which is pretty close to our 129. And our town bylaw stands out from these in notable ways. Unlike most of these towns, ours mentions only safe distances from shorelines, not from swimmers or rafts or other vessels, although those regulations are specified in the state code of regulations. Also, our current bylaw mentions only motorboats and neglects to mention safe practices for kayaks, sailboats, paddleboards, swimmers, those being towed, and boats sharing the lake with all these other uses. In contrast to other towns, our bylaw collapses all the state laws and regs into a general category that can't be known by others unless people separately research all these state codes. In these other towns with similar lakes to ours, over half of them have horsepower limits or speed limits topping out at 5 miles an hour. Several have decided that it's safest to place some limitations on higher speeds on busiest days of summer weekends and holidays, because they're recognizing the size of these small lakes. Are these sorts of laws appropriate for our lake? I don't know. It's a worthwhile discussion, but our voting committee did not engage in such a discussion. There's a lot of goodwill down at the lake, but there are apparent blinders on regarding safety, and it looks to be giving priority to preserve the status quo, rather than looking closely at what would improve the experience for all users. And one other little bit that night, on time is okay?
Go ahead.
All right. I attended the voting safety committee last night, and I heard a lot of discussion about education. Most committee members mentioned how safe the lake is. We're hearing that today. Their conversations with others confirm that everything has been great for decades. One said that people are overreacting. I think there is a perception that the lake is safe because it's generally quiet. But the times when we need regulations and the times when we need supervision of what's going on down there is on the busiest times. And those are the times when I have felt particularly unsafe. I felt unsafe on a busy 4th of July weekend when a resident's wakeboat, not a visitor from outside, tried to maneuver around other boats and came in too close to me and my sailboat at high speed and nearly swamped me. I didn't witness any self-patrolling of boats patrolling themselves on that day. Boats and skiers often forget or don't know the distances and swing in way too close to me and my shoreline. And also, and this is the hard thing to say among my neighbors, but safety extends to civil communication. I don't feel safe when trying to talk to the family members of residents about the law, as the Lake Wyola Association has urged me to do, and then having to experience threatening, misogynistic profanities, a string of which I could not utter here because they are so offensive. This is not theoretical. This is not nitpicking. These are real experiences that I have had. Also, I don't feel safe when safety markers that I put out were vandalized and left in a pile on our dock during the night. So I ask three things of this committee. Please look seriously at revising our bylaw regardless of whatever recommendations come from the committee. And be sure that it clearly identifies state codes on speeds, distances, and all types of vessels. Please fund the installation of no-wake buoy markers, especially where speedboats and skiers make their turns following shoreline curves, hopefully in time for the upcoming town meeting. And please make education and enforcement a town priority with assistance from the Lake Wyola Association, but not giving a small 150-member group sole authority to determine signage, safety rules, and other kinds of education initiatives. Thank you, and I have some background just for my points in case you all want to come at something. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Other comments? Yes.
Good evening, Stephen Dowlands, 48 Lake Drive, full-time resident at the lake since 2019, summer resident since 2006. This is a simple comment that has actually been made, but just to reinforce it. There's no way, in my mind, that any of us can determine whether we are 150 feet, which seems to be the measurement of safe distance from the shore, when you're out on the lake. And my suggestion that the select board consider is putting in place provision that markers be installed so there are clear sight lines, so you can clearly see from one to the other, whether you're in a boat, in a kayak, or swimming, so you know whether you're inside or outside that 150-foot boundary. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Hi, my name is Teresa Nicolot, and I live on Shore Drive, the lake. One thing I just wanted to point out is that Lake Wyola is a great pond, which means that it's open to the general public, so people from outside can't be kept from coming in. And it's the town's responsibility to ensure that all the safety rules are followed, that the environmental concerns are followed, and recreational concerns are followed. And the way I see the lake is there's three parts to it. There's safety, there's environment, there's recreation. And it's for all three of those things that I think we need to be looking at from when you're out in a kayak or a canoe on the lake, there's also your experience that's important. And if you come to the lake, you go out on the lake and you're worried about your safety, and your experience is all choppy, and you're not there to paddle and enjoy yourself because you're just being hit by all kinds of wakes. It's not enjoyable. It's not enjoyable. You can swim in the swimming area because you're getting knocked over. I know they have a problem at the state beach with little kids getting knocked over on the shoreline from wakes. The other thing that I think is really important to think about is the idea of going up to people if they violated rules. It's one thing to go up to people if you're in a boat, like a motorboat, but if you're in a kayak or a canoe, you can't really paddle up to a speedboat
and have a cordial conversation about how you felt unsafe. It just doesn't work. And this was one thing I was going to say, but I lost. That's it. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Yes.
Spent a lot of really important time discussing human safety in relation to voting at Lake Wyola, and very rightly so. But times are changing. We are in the midst of an ever-growing environmental crisis. Lake Wyola isn't just a place for voting. It's part of an ecosystem that sustains us all. I'm no expert, but I've noticed that there are way fewer flies these past few summers. I have read in numerous places that the populations of pollinators and birds are decreasing at an alarming rate over the last 20 years. I was visited last summer by a wetland scientist who had me looking for insect larvae at the beach. Oh, by the way, I'm a resident of the Lake Wyola community, not on the lake, but behind people on the lake. My name is Mary Jo Johnson. Sorry about that. He seemed really surprised when he could only find one insect larvae. I don't know why this might be, but in addition to boating, another way of relating to the lake is learning about its ecology. I hope I'm not alone here in believing that for the sake of future generations, we need to consider the safety of the non-human residents of Lake Wyola too. I would like to know that the loons that visit us every spring could comfortably nest and raise their young. I would like native plants to grow along the shore and provide shelter for fish that could successfully spawn in the shallow water. I would like dragonflies and damselflies and other flies and pollinators that spend part of their life cycle in and around the edges of the lake to survive and thrive. A 2 to 3 foot wake from a wake boat hitting the shore interferes with all of that and more. And I hope that the select board will consider the information that you have available about the environmental impacts of these wakes. I would like for us to at least make ourselves aware of the environmental impacts of our recreational boating activities as people that live around the lake, so that we can choose to act with consideration. I noticed that the charge to the Boating Safety Committee included instruction to consult with DCR and the environmental police. And perhaps this was at least a nod to conservation. I hope that in the near future, perhaps town leadership and maybe town meeting as well will address and discuss some of the bigger questions regarding how to balance the competing interests of environmental conservation and the various recreational uses of the lake, as we all do our best to ensure safety and opportunity for all current and future residents and for the ecosystem that supports all of us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Michelle.
Okay, Michelle, online, can you hear us? If so, you're up.
Yeah. Michelle, you can unmute yourself.
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. How are you? Hope you're doing well. I want to first thank the Select Board and the committee for bringing this group together. My name is Michelle Abdow, and I'm a proud property owner on North Laurel Drive. My children's great-grandfather was one of the original property owners here at Lake Wyola, and our family has been enjoying motorboating on the lake for over 60 years. It's a tradition that's been passed down through the generations, part of our family's history and the connection to this very special place. I appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight, and I want to express my strong support for keeping the current bylaws governing motorboat use on our lake exactly as they are, and agree that we must all apply common sense, but more importantly, it's a shared responsibility for safety. I'd like to address what should be a conversation about safety, something that we all value, but instead it's starting to feel like an unfair targeting of a specific group of us who have motorboats. That shift in tone is creating unnecessary division in a community that has always prided itself on sharing and respecting our lake. What makes Lake Wyola so special is our ability to bring people together through a variety of recreational activities, from kayaking, paddleboarding, swimming, tubing, water skiing, motorboating. All of these coexist safely and respectfully. We care deeply about the safety at the lake. We actively distribute safety cards to boaters. We educate our neighbors, remind swimmers to stay close to shore. And if they're not escorted by a boat, we lead by example. We let them know what the rules are. We are not passive users of the lake. We are stewards of it. Many of you who are wanting to alter the bylaws say that you don't feel comfortable approaching people, yet it's us boaters that don't shy away from the people that are not doing what they're supposed to be doing, and we are the ones who approach them. We've taught my children to do it. We've taught other people to do the same. I'd like to challenge the idea that there's a battle between motorboaters and paddlers. It's not. Many of us, myself included, enjoys both. I kayak, I swim, I paddleboard, I take my family water skiing and wake surfing. We don't see these as competing uses. We see them as complementary parts of lake life. It's all about balance, and we struck the balance well, very, very well so far. Finally, I urge all of us to focus on not restrictions, but on education. Let's continue to spread safety information. Let's have everybody being stewards and not being afraid to talk to people. Let's put up better signage. Let's model respectful lake behavior, and let's build a community around a shared responsibility, not division. Lake Wyola is working. Let's not fix what's not broken. Let's continue to protect the lake, enjoy it together, and uphold the bylaws that are already serving us so well. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Michelle. Who's next?
Hi. My name is Tom Seifert. I live on South Laurel Drive on the lake. I'll try to make my points brief. They might not connect exactly. The first one is to say thank you to you, Paul. And if I'm not mistaken, this might be the last official moderation yours for a town event. So as was mentioned earlier, I appreciate what you've done and hope that this is a nice end cap if it ends up being the end cap.
Thank you.
Recreation and fun. When the lake was dammed up, if you look into the damming records for the lake, it was to become a recreation lake. It's there to have fun with. Comparisons to roads immediately fall flat because it's not a roadway. It's all there for fun and recreation. And I think it's really important that anyone who wants to have fun on the lake always feels that they are safe to have their fun. And I'm hearing comments from both sides, if there are sides to talk about, that there are times when it doesn't feel safe on the lake. And that doesn't compute to no one's idea of fun that is legal fun should be less available at any time the way the lake is being used. Wake boats are definitely an issue, and I think it's very important that it got brought up. I'm glad that it did. Distances are an issue. If you're going to keep the bylaw as written, number 3 is going to cause problems because, as was mentioned earlier, when the shore is a swimming shore of a lake or a great pond, there's no motorboat operation allowed within 150 feet of the shore, except for docking or mooring, which is not what number 3 says. But the distance thing in number 6 as well, about that designated swimming areas shall not extend 75 feet or more than 75 feet from shore. But the state beach does. You can go to Google Maps to confirm it, and I'm not certain that the town has the right to tell the state beach to shorten its distance from shore. On the note of keeping the bylaws as written, also in number 6, if you read it, you'll see that non-motorized watercraft are allegedly allowed to enter the state beach swimming area if they are docking or launching. But that is not what the PCR regulations say. And if you've ever tried to bring a canoe to the state beach, you will find out you may not do that. So it seems unwise to me to preserve these as written. At the Great Pond, as was mentioned earlier, the lake is open to the public, and there is a right to passive use of the lake because it is a great pond. There is not a right to active use of the lake for motorboats. That's a privilege. There may be a safety issue addressed by consolidating all bylaws in the town that concern Lake Wyola. The winter use, the jet ski use, and the bylaw that this committee is looking at. If you go to the website for this committee, you'll find a map in the midst of one of the meetings, which is a good visual marker for the idea of what would be 150 feet from shore, what would be 300 feet from shore. And you can then add to that, what would it mean if there was a water skier and a swimmer and a boat, each in places where they're allowed to be, that each of whom incurs by their existence 150-foot radius around themselves, into which other motorboats can only come at 5 miles per hour, and try to find a space left for doing anything over 5 miles an hour. My personal anecdote, I think it was 2-3 falls ago, I was trying to swim in the lake with my friend, and I didn't know that I wasn't allowed to swim out more than 150 feet from shore without a boat. That's part of the town bylaw. There was one boat on the lake. It was off season, like late August or September. And that boat came very fast and close to me and yelled at me, "You're not where you're supposed to be." I said, "Show me the law." They did the perimeter around the lake, scared the bejesus out of my friend. She's Irish and they say bejesus. And the boat came towards us again really fast. And I said, "He knows I'm here, don't worry, he's not going to run into us." There were the only 3 people on the lake. And the boat came, oh, I think they had a water skier too. Might have been 5 people. I think there were 3 people on the boat. 2 in the boat, 1 water skier. So the person driving the boat comes up to me at a pretty fast speed, stops before they get to me. And we have a heated interaction. My request for the law being shown to me that I can't be there, and their assurance that I shouldn't be there. And later we connected over next door, and I got an apology for their heatedness, and I really appreciated that. And I was able to point out to them that I learned in the process, yeah, I wasn't allowed to be there, but there's a state law that says they should never have been going more than 5 miles an hour within 150 feet of me. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Evan Jones, Lake Drive resident all my life and a full-time resident there now. Today was a beautiful day on the lake. The ice has come off a little earlier than normal this year. It's usually off by April 1st. And it doesn't get real busy boating until mid-June and July and August. And then it gets quiet again. And we have September and October, 2 of the most beautiful months on the lake, my favorite times. Very quiet, all the summer people have gone home. And there's just a lot of free time on that lake without boat action. And when I try to go snow skiing on a mountain, I don't go on the weekends when it's busy if possible.
Huh?
And from the ocean to the beach, I try not to go out in the ocean if it's stormy and there's huge waves. And it just seems like there's a lot of time and choice on when to go and what activities to do on the lake. And to change that would be concentrating, we're already concentrating voting in the 2.5 months. Consequence of living in New England. But if we start concentrating voting into even smaller time segments, I think it's gonna add to the problem more than solve the problem. So I'm in favor of keeping the regulations the way they are as far as schedules and limits. I agree that there needs to be some work done on buoys and education, and I'm just very thrilled and blessed we're all here enjoying the lake, and we've been as safe as we've been for 55 years of my life. There's a lot more accidents on the town roads of Shutesbury than there are on Lake Wyola. You see that on next door every day. People complaining about reckless driving and people tailgating and things like that. And I haven't seen one complaint on next door about Lake Wyola boating, so. Let's keep it up. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Yes.
Hello. My name's Alex Abdow. I'm a full-time resident on North Laurel Drive on the lake. I've been here my whole life. My family's been here since the 50s. And when I see people who may not be adhering to bylaws, I respectfully approach them. And I let them know, not that what they're doing is wrong, but I inform them on how to be safer. In our boat, we have safety cards, and I'm willing to give one to anyone who wants one. When there was the incident this summer at the lake, I was one of the first ones on the scene. And I went with everyone to the boat launch and to the ambulance to make sure everything happened the way it should have. I am a water skier, wake surfer, I'm a paddler, I'm a kayaker, I pretty much do everything on the lake. And I would like to say that when it is not safe or the lake is busy, I will not go out and water ski. I will not go out and wake surf. And I'll also not go out and paddleboard and swim and so on and so forth, just because there's a lot of traffic. As of now, I don't feel that the bylaws should be changed. I believe that more people should be educated and informed on what they are. Thank you.
Thank you. Wants to speak?
Hi, I'm Sandy Yarmad.
Pull that right down if you
I
would.
pull it
please.
down, okay. Sandy Yarmad, I live at 18 Wyola Drive. I was gonna say what I wrote to the select board, but I gotta change it a little bit. My family has been at the lake since 1960. My husband's family, his grandparents, his parents, since the 40s. When I inherited my parents' cottage, which at that time it was, my husband and I, we already met at Lake Wyola, our dream was to move there. Unfortunately, the cottage was falling down, and with Massachusetts codes, we had to upgrade it. So we did. We spent a lot of our money that we worked hard for to rebuild at the lake, so that our family, my children and my grandchildren and their children can enjoy the lake for what it is now. And I'm hearing all this stuff about changing this and changing that. Yes, there needs to be maybe some changes, but don't be drastic about it. Think about what you would do if you worked so hard to build a place where you live our dream. And we want it to go up to our families and our grandchildren and then their children. If you change things so drastically, that is not going to happen. What a sad thing. deal. Just something that you have to think about before you drastically change things. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Paul Moyne. I am not a resident, but my in-laws live at the lake. I've been spending about 30 some odd years up here. On multiple occasions, 3 occasions, I can think of off the top of my head, as a boater, I've rescued people in trouble with sailboats over their heads. Sails in the water, can't get them back up. We go, we help. That's what we do. I responded to that boat accident. We were at a graduation party, having a great time. And a very bad night, very bad event. What we are missing in all of this stuff, both this side, that side, swimmer, kayaker, common sense. Common sense tells you, if it's really busy out, don't go out. When I see a lot of people out paddleboarding and doing all this other stuff, or other boats out, I don't take my wake boat out. I'll go fish, I'll go do whatever. And if he's out, I go out. It's common sense, and I think we're losing that. I think we're fighting here against boaters, and we enjoy the lake. My kids are out on that lake all the time. Never had a problem. I just think that everybody needs to come together here with a little bit of common sense, educate everybody, everybody get along. Life is short. Everybody wants to enjoy it, and we all should be able to. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Kathy Salvador. I am a full-time resident of Merrill Drive, which is on the lake. Was a summer resident for a number of years, but I've been living in Shutesbury and on the lake for the past 11 years. I want to thank the select board for creating this opportunity. I happen to serve on the voting and safety committee. And so I recognize how important these discussions are, and like this opportunity to hear from people beyond our committee. I guess I want to tell you what went into my thinking when we had the vote to move on beyond a conversation about changing the bylaws to what the majority of the committee members felt was more important, and that is the education and enforcement element of the work that we were charged with. Originally, our committee was put together with the idea that we would work for about 8 months and maybe have a recommendation to the select board in time for the annual town meeting. With that in mind, my thinking was, let's do something that will have the most immediate impact on safety at the lake. Because we don't have a lot of data, we have a lot of anecdotes, and I'm sympathetic to people who shared their anecdotes and are not feeling safe paddling or swimming on the lake. But my feeling was we should probably be thinking about doing something that has the most immediate impact on safety at the lake. It's something that probably hasn't been done in quite a while. I think we've heard from a lot of people who spent their entire lives at the lake, who probably know what the safe rules and regulations are, what the bylaws require. But in terms of formal education, it's probably been a few years since even those who spent their entire lives at the lake had that formal education. So my thinking was, if we focused on that in combination with the new voting safety requirements that the state is putting into effect, which will probably be a refresher for a lot of voters. And I think they all welcomed that. My thinking was that that was going to make a difference. That was going to make an immediate difference in safety on the lake. I think the accident that happened last summer probably already has had an impact on safety at the lake. People are way more mindful of what can happen if you're not following the rules and regulations as a voter. I know when I talked about what a short time frame we had as a committee to get some work done that was going to be meaningful, one of my colleagues reminded me that you can't rush safety, and I absolutely agree. You can't rush safety. I worked for years in a manufacturing facility where safety was critical. So I still believe that we did the right thing when we voted, and the majority of the committee members felt that we needed to do something right away. It might require more conversations about where our bylaws maybe need to be cleaned up a little bit, but my feeling was education, enforcement from not only the local police department, but the environmental police, who, the local environmental police representative I met this winter, and he's really interested and anxious to get involved in enforcing, what he can at Lake Wyola. So that's my take on where we arrived as a committee and what we were thinking of when we took that vote. I think we are a little divided still as a committee, much like we're hearing from our neighbors and friends, who I hope will continue to be neighbors and good friends as time goes on, because it's a great community. But I'm hoping that as we continue our work, sounds like we've got an extra month now before the annual town meeting to make recommendations to the select board. So my hope is that after having heard from everybody tonight, we'll be able to continue doing the work that we were asked to do, and then we can provide you with some good, solid recommendations to improve safety at the lake. And I'm really disappointed to hear that Lakers, or whatever we're referred to, those of us who live at the lake, is used as a derogatory term, because I don't think I've met a single Laker who I would call derogatory. And I hope they don't say that about me and Joe.
I'm sorry, I should not have said that, and that's going back about 30 years, I will say, when I, in my early years in this town, so forget I said that. Okay, who else?
Hi, I feel like I shouldn't go after her, I feel like she should have been last. My name is Catherine, I'm a local, I don't live at the lake, but I love using the lake. And I don't really have a boat between me and a speedboat or a motorboat, so I feel a little vulnerable out there. And, the one thing on my mind is enforcement, really. And the times that I have felt uncomfortable, have really only been a couple of times, or perhaps I should rephrase, with certain people. Most people who are voting on that lake are great. I have a great experience. It's been a very important part of my summer and my physical therapy. But I just wonder how, after that, I saw the end result of that accident. I showed up with my craft at the end of the day, and I saw the ambulance. I was like, what in the heck's going on here? And when I found out what happened, I just was grateful I was late that day, because I could have been hit. And I unfortunately saw more shenanigans after that. Not that night, but subsequently, not common sense, not good behavior with a motorboat. At least 2 different motorboats. I believe people that live at the lake, but I don't know for sure. I just know that who is enforcing when people are not doing the right thing? And when I say not doing the right thing, I mean going like this around the lake and acting a bit, like we don't care. We don't really care. We just want to go fast and do this. That's not most people. So anyway, who enforces that is my question. How do we stop that? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, right.
Hi, I'm Noreen Pease, and I've lived on Lake Wyola for 25 years. I'm a former president and director of the Lake Wyola Association and a longtime member of the Lake Wyola Safety Committee. I want to thank everyone for holding this public forum tonight, considering all concerns and all voices with regard to safety or lack thereof at the lake.
And I have to say that I too have been falsely accused and angrily ostracized as being an anti-vote person, motorboat person. But I'd like to say that I'm not pro-safety and always have been, and I think my record speaks to that. Lake Wyola is a beloved community resource that is and should be shared by all types of users. Unfortunately, many non-motorized users alter their behavior and do not paddle, sail, swim at certain peak hours because of fear of a life-altering or life-ending crash. I'm concerned that the Lake Wyola Boating Safety Committee, by already voting in November early into their job, looking at safety, to accept the Lake Wyola bylaws and recommend no changes, has neglected to consider many important facts. Number one, other lakes of similar size in Massachusetts have helpful and clarifying bylaws to be reviewed and considered. Number two, taking action to vote to accept the existing bylaws without changes maintains an intimidated and fearful group of neighbors who simply want to enjoy a time and place for non-motorized sport on the lake. Number three, wakeboat waves of 3 feet or greater capsize paddle boats, boards, swimmers, and young children playing waterside. Wakeboats erode shoreline, never to be returned to its natural state. Number 5, there needs to be thoughtful discussion that includes listening and adapting, yes, even changing to meet multiple resident needs. Number 6, existing bylaws need clarification and understanding of how enforcement is to be mutually accomplished. Amendments and corrections are needed. Number 7, I live on the quiet end of the lake where many boaters, several of whom are on the safety committee, come to anchor and swim because it is away from the intense wave action. From my Lake Wyola deck, I have watched the paddleboard yoga class, both classes, because there are less waves in that area. The class paddles the entire length of the lake to achieve a peaceful place to teach and relax. I have witnessed the class charged by a speeding motorboat that came within 20 feet of it, and riders in the speeding boat sprayed water, laughed at, and yelled into the class. Several class members fell from their boards, and some would say this was simply good fun. I say such behavior is another crash waiting to happen. I was on my deck last summer when the crash into the family-filled fishing boat occurred. I saw the speeding boat that hit the fishing boat go around the lake 2 times at rally speed. Rally speed. Did I have a speed gun to measure the speed? No. I do not know the tragic outcome. I do know, however, the tragic outcome of the foreshadowing I witnessed. It is time to take action beyond simply education. I was on the education committee of the Lake Wyola Association for years, and we took some steps, minimal steps, baby steps. But there are steps that there are members here today that are not admitting that they want to take, like designating how far from shore boats need to be so that motorized boats need to be when they are skiing and surfing and that sort of thing, so that we know what is safe and what is not. I fear for myself, my friends, and my neighbors. I am vigilant when I paddle my kayak, yet I have no control over the too frequent and endangering behavior of those boats with power. Please help some of us take positive action to make this community lake a safer and more inviting place for all users. There are plenty of ideas about how to improve safety if an environment is available where all ideas are respected and genuinely reviewed and considered. The work takes time and patience, and the product is always better when all views are considered. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Okay, we still have Marie on Zoom. If you can unmute yourself, you're on.
Hi, everyone. I'm a part-time lake resident on Lake Drive, and I just want to share my experience. I'm an active swimmer, paddler, and boater. And from a young age, my family and my parents have really emphasized how to be safe while driving a boat, as well as swimming and paddling. And a big part of that is situational awareness. So when I'm driving a motorboat or a passenger, I'm constantly scanning the water for swimmers and paddlers. If I'm driving, I tell everyone in my boat to do the same. So everyone is being aware, just more eyes help. And when I'm paddling, I'm constantly aware of where I am in relation to the shoreline and other boats. A lot of times I will drift too far from shore and I adjust my course. I'll intentionally paddle in the direction so I can see oncoming boat traffic and make sure I'm close to shore when a boat's passing. Also, my family has taught me the best way to angle the bow of my kayak or my paddle forward when it's wavy. So when a wave comes, I don't get swamped. And overall, that strategy has worked really well for me. Then also regarding to situational awareness, there's been times when I've been driving a motorboat and have seen a swimmer in the middle of the lake. So just kind of as in the lieu of safety and courtesy, I have slowly approached the swimmer to just inform them you're far from shore, you're near in the boat lane, boats, or it'll be really hard for boats to see you, it's not safe. But the thing is, you slowly drive up to a swimmer and they don't see you, they don't hear you. I remember I had to kind of call for the swimmer multiple times before they stopped to look up, which just, it's just a situational awareness is everyone's responsibility. So I've lived on the lake full time in the past, and I just want to say that year round, there's many, many times when there's no boats on the lake and it's beautiful and perfectly calm for swimming and paddling. So I do not feel that time restrictions would solve any of the safety issues. I think and inadvertently, they could actually make some of the safety issues worse. Overall, I feel safe on Lake Wyola and would like to emphasize addressing safety issues through education and enforcing existing bylaws rather than imposing new bylaws. And again, I'd also like to mention, this has been already mentioned before, but Massachusetts has passed a new boating law that will require all motorized vessel operators to complete a state-approved course. So I think that's a real strong opportunity for the lake community to pursue. There's a few years before we will have to complete that, but if everyone in the lake completes it sooner rather than later, I think that only helps all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else live here? Yes, okay, and then we got one more on Zoom as well.
Hi, I'm Mike Connors, Pine Drive. I'd like to thank the select board. All right. I have been going to Lake Wyola my entire life. My father has been there his entire life, and his father before him in the 40s and late 30s when they got there. We have boated, fished, swum, kayak, all forms of water activities. I gravitated toward fishing. That's pretty much what I always do there, I've always done. My family was involved in this collision. We were the ones that were hit. So I have a pretty good perspective of what occurred. And I feel like there are many perspectives here, and this is a big part of it, is that everyone needs to see each other's perspective. So I understand the paddler side of it. I understand the boater side of it. One of the things that struck me that day when I was at the boat launch with my daughter and my father and my nephew was that several people had come up to me and asked me, was it this person? Was it this person? And they all said the same person. So to me, this particular incident was an individual issue. I'm not saying that everyone hasn't had their own experiences with other boaters or whatever, no matter what discipline you try. I was a police officer for 21 years and almost 22 years. And I think anyone here who has a driver's license can give an instance sometime in their life of having a close call or something that someone did to them. Does that mean every person is a menace on the road? No. But there are certain individuals who need to be held accountable. And the way to do that is through your police force, through making complaints. If you're having an issue with a voter, then you don't feel comfortable going up to a person and saying to them, hey, you're violating this bylaw or whatever, because of whatever. You shouldn't feel uncomfortable doing that. If you don't, then you have an avenue with your police force. It's not like, oh, we can't do anything because there's a bylaw, but I don't feel safe talking to that person. You have an avenue for it. So I think I am a proponent of the education part of it. I know there's been education in the past, but I think we need to have more perspective. Get the perspective of the paddlers, the perspective of the boaters and the fishermen. I've been fishing numerous times when I've had out in the middle of the lake. It was a quiet day, but I've had people in kayaks come up and hold on to the side of my boat. Hey, you catch any fish? Well, no, thank you for coming over. But, you know, and I've been on the, you know, fishing a shoreline and they paddle right through your line. And then they're all tangled up in your line and they're looking at me like I'm the guy that's, you know, doing something. Have a little, like someone said before, situational awareness, know what's going on around you. The people on this that are mostly on the lake all do all disciplines at the lake, swimming, kayaking, boating. You have to understand that the boats that are going around are going probably 90% of them going back to a place. So see what's going on around you and where they are coming from, where they're going to. Most skiers only go once or twice around before they go back in. So it's just for me, it just seems like being aware of what's going on. What happened to my family never should have happened because that was an individual problem. And people came to me after and said that they had seen that particular individual since the collision doing things they shouldn't have been doing as well. So, I like the idea of the education aspect of it, getting everyone to kind of see each other's perspective. And I'd like to thank the people that were here, that were there that day for me and my family. Because it made a big difference. It actually kept me from going to a really dark place with this individual. Just feeling the love of the community that came out and overwhelmingly just came and helped. People came from everywhere. The lifeguards from the beach, State Beach, swam all the way out. 500, 600 feet, wherever it was, on paddleboard to get out to us. And by then, you know, there were already numerous people there, but I just can't thank everyone enough for that day. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Okay, I think Jessica's been waiting online, so. Jessica?
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, my name is Jessica Carey and I have a place on Shore Drive and I am the SUP yoga instructor that teaches on Lake Wyola, the stand-up paddleboard class that you may have seen me go out. I have a fleet of 8 paddleboards and I'm in charge of myself and 7 people to navigate the lake and I educate and I assist people along the way. And I overheard in this meeting someone comment about an incident where they witnessed something with my class. And I don't know what that person is referencing, but that I've never had an issue on Lake Wyola. I just want to be perfectly clear that in doing what I do, I have never felt unsafe. I'm sorry for the folks that have. I'm not discrediting that people have felt unsafe, but my experience, we also have a boat and we enjoy all sorts of water activities, tubing and skiing and swimming and all of the things. But in terms of our experience and my experience as an instructor, has been extremely positive. I've had no issues. Sure, boats come by and I teach my people, drop down onto your knees. If you need to, waves happen, and then you get kickback. Um, I call it the washing machine effect, that when the wave comes across one direction and then it hits the shore, then it comes back right at you. And the young woman who was on earlier and talked about turning her nose into the wave. I teach all my clients that as well. So I just wanted to share that we've never had any issues, and I really appreciate being able to offer that experience to guests and residents of Lake Wyola. And we have only had wonderful, beautiful, positive experiences on the lake.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Charles Gillum. I live on Pelham Mill Road. I've been in Shutesbury for 34 years and been using the lake a good 25 of that, mostly as a swimmer and just recently a paddle boarder. And from what I've heard tonight, it's been quite beautiful because I think it seems like it's important for us to interact with each other and respect each other in the lake. And if that's the key to this whole thing, because I have the freedom in my work to be able to go and pick the time to go at the lake. And we always go like 8 o'clock in the morning because as swimmers, it's mostly calm. There may be 1 or 2 skiers because they like the flat water also, but they're very respectful to us. We swim with buoys now, so everybody can see us. Which I feel is very important. And I just feel like education might be the word, however it comes out, but it's just like people understanding that there are other of us on the lake and we all need to be respected for our desire to be on this beautiful lake that we have here. So something needs to change. And we also know that a lot of it, people have been doing it anyway. Talking to each other, making amends when we can, respecting each other on the lake. And I think that's the biggest piece to somehow come out. And it seems like education and informing more people of this is important.
Thank you.
Dive right there. Bart Thompson, I don't know if I'm a lake owner or not, but the house is in the state. We have 4 generations of family members that have enjoyed the lake. Personally, I basically feel like I grew up on Lake Wyola. Fortunate enough, our family acquired it as a second house when I was 8 years old. And I've enjoyed swimming, boating, fishing, although I don't catch a lot of fish, so not into that. But I feel like we're all here today because of a situation that happened, and we all want everyone to be safe. I have my nephews out there, my mom, my dad. We all want to be safe. We all want to have fun. It's a recreation lake. We all want to enjoy it. But do we need more rules and laws? If we could go back in time and put a law in the books that said, don't crash into another boat, I don't think it would have changed the situation that happened. So I want, when I hear people say, let's do a horsepower restriction or change this, I start to feel a way about that. I don't want to change that. I think we have something special. I think we can all enjoy the lake cooperatively. And I agree with the board. They've looked at things. They say that we have, the laws or the rules, the bylaws on the books that are sufficient. And I don't think adding more rules are going to solve any of those issues. I think an education piece, letting people know and just being respectful, so we can all continue to enjoy the lake. So I have.
Thank you.
Hello, George Abdow, lake resident, town resident, president of the Lake Wyola Association. From a personal standpoint, I just like to communicate to the board that I hope that we can get through this in an expeditious manner because it's definitely taken a toll on the overall community. There's the resentment and everything else. So if we could get through it, that would be great sooner rather than later. I don't personally believe that we need to reiterate every state voting law as a town bylaw, because if people aren't reading the state bylaws, they're not gonna read the town bylaws. I believe that we need to have a better way of communicating, and getting the message out and the word out, which leads me to, as part of the association and part of the president of the association, to tell you that the association is 100% behind any education, signage, anything else that you guys need from us. If you need use of our building for educational times, if we want to have courses, anything we want to do, we are more than receptive to it. We want to make this lake a safer lake, as somebody said before, I think it was Connors, that everybody is going out there, we're trying to have a good time and be safe. No one is going out there to hurt anybody or anything else. And I think that we can do this as a community. I think that this incident, as unfortunate as it was, has definitely brought an awareness that the association and everybody else needs to reamp on safety. And I think we are in the process of doing that. And I feel confident that the lake last year, through the 60 years I've been here, the lake, in my opinion, has been a safe lake. If you look at the statistics and talk to the environmental police and you ask them how come you're never here, they say because for safety's sake, you guys, they need us down the river, they need us over here, they need us over there. And I think that taking that into consideration, taking into consideration what happened last year, that Lake Wyola is going to continue to be a safer place, and that's good. Thank you.
Thank you. 7:45, so now's your chance.
Hello, my name is Alexandria Wincolor. I've been a Shutesbury resident since 1994. I'm not really sure how this actual meeting was announced. I know it was on Next Door Neighbor, which is social media. I'm not sure if it was really announced anywhere else for the town, but that's just a question I put out there because I know a lot of people aren't in Shutesbury on Next Door Neighbor. So that's something to think about for the future. I've enjoyed the lake since I moved here. Of course, I'm an avid boater. I've had some experiences on the lake. The first was kind of early on when I realized up in the middle, center point in the northern section, it gets really turbulent and a lot of boats are going around, and I have a small skiff, and I was taken on water because of that. Another time was when we had the police department. They were out there on the boat and was approaching me as I was swimming. And that was pretty scary because it wasn't, I've boated all over the land, and I've had lots of environmental police officers check my gear and all that. And, it's a little safer when you have folks that are doing that full time. So that was scary because I was in the water. I've also more recently had an experience where I was on the lake and I had a boat with a water skier. These are folks who live on the lake, approached me very closely, and the person that was, we were stationary, and the person that was in the boat with me has never gone back in the boat with me again. And those folks didn't come over and apologize. I had to kind of seek that out and get information and go and talk to a lot of people and try to find out who's the president of the association and all that. And I am on the lake and I couldn't find that info to have anybody call me back. That was during COVID, and I know that we were all kind of a little bit loony back then, but you know, it happened. And then I saw another time where a guy was all fully equipped in a kayak with fishing gear and got swamped by a wave. And that was pretty hard to see. But despite all that, I'm an avid water sports enthusiast, a boat owner, and I'm also on the Lake Wyola committee that is chaired by a good chairman, Matt, who I've never met in person, so good to see you there, and all the other members here. We're a good mix of summer residents and folks who live here full time. And there's one thing that we all agree on. We love the lake. With that love comes responsibility, and that means protecting not just the lake itself, but each other. The core issue here is safety. I brought a proposal to our committee that I believe offers a reasonable path forward. It suggested we keep the current bylaws in place for the 2025 season and try a trial run of designated times for different lake uses. That means set hours where all boats must travel at headway speed, creating a calm, safe window for swimmers, kayakers, paddleboarders, etc. Then during the other times, high-speed boating and skiing would be allowed. So folks who enjoy those sports can still have their fun too. It's not radical. In fact, most great ponds across Massachusetts already do this. It's just common sense. Unfortunately, that proposal didn't go anywhere. After a general discussion, a vote was taken, 5 in favor of keeping the bylaws as is, 4 of us in favor of continuing the review. We didn't feel rushed, those of us who were doing the review. We wanted to take the time. Safety takes time. My entire career, I've spent 30 years as an international consultant working on situational alliance. That's what I taught. I've written curriculum. I go around the world teaching that. I know what it takes to teach situational alliance. Unfortunately, the current boating class that I've taken, it's a safety course that we all will have to take if you haven't taken it yet, is it just a review of PowerPoint slides. And that will help people, no doubt, especially if you're new to boating. But actual, well, I guess the best way to say it is you can't learn how to grow corn out of a book. You have to get out in the boat, you have to experience that, and know how to do that safely. A little something else happened during that meeting, or not that meeting, but later on, more earlier this year, is that a proposal to station a police boat on the lake full-time and have it docked on the conservation land. That didn't come from our committee, it came from the police department. Now, I'm all for safety and law enforcement when needed, but dedicating town resources to a full-time patrol boat before we've even tested time sharing feels like skipping a few steps. Someone at our meeting last night noted that lake use depends on the day, weather, crowds, time of year. If you live on the lake, you can look out your window and decide when it's safe to swim or ski. But the rest of us, we're rolling the dice. Will the waves be calm enough to kayak without tipping when I arrive? Will there be so many boats that a swim feels like a risk if I'm traveling from across town or further afield? The only equitable solution is designated times. Will it be perfect right away? Probably not. But let's not pretend perfection is a standard. Remember when the TSA banned liquids over 3 ounces? We still forget. That's just human nature. But the rule stuck because it made the system safer. In that same spirit, we can and should ask for small shared adjustments that make Lake Wyola safer and more enjoyable for everyone. In 1994, the diving board at Millie's Beach was made of wood. Up to 1996, jet skis were swarming the lake. Kayaks were rare. Paddleboards, they didn't arrive until 20 years later. Times change, and so must we. So here's my ask to this board and to this town. Let's all pause and exhale. Go back to the tables and revisit the bylaws. Let's give this trial season of designated times a real shot that will allow us to communicate and do everything we're talking about, educating people and conversing, and see if it's actually working. Can we come together as a community and communicate that and see how it goes? So we could give it a trial run, all while instituting the educational recommendations from our committee, which are really, really good. And most importantly, continue to build a welcoming and collaborative community on the lake. In doing so, we can gather some basic data on speeds, on usage, on what works, and come back next fall, smarter and better informed. I've been living in Shutesbury probably longer than I've lived anywhere else in my life. I have the time to take the time. I don't want to feel rushed that we have to go through this and there's any kind of pressure for that. Planning safety takes a really long time, whether it's for a school system, a town, highways, and especially our beloved lake. We've got something really special in Lake Wyola. Let's make sure it stays safe, fair, and shared for us all. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, getting down to the wire, yes.
My name is Amy Chen. I am, I think, probably best described as a summer resident. My grandparents bought a cottage on Lake Wyola back in the 70s. My parents bought a different house, and my mother has been living there full time for about 10 years, or actually more than that, I believe. I've grown up there, spent a lot of time at Lake Wyola, and I love it, as I think all of us here do. I think we all want safety, right? We all just come at it from very different perspectives. And we all, I think, enjoy the lake in very different ways. Some of us are primarily swimmers and kayakers. Some of us do all of the activities, but I don't think there are very many motorboaters that only motorboat. I think that most people enjoy a big variety of activities. So I think it's important to not, I think many conversations sort of polarize us as either motorboaters or swimmers and paddlers. But I think most of us actually do a wide range of activities at the lake. And that is the beauty of it. And most of us also probably really appreciate the wildlife there, the eagles that have been nesting and the otter that is swimming around, and the loon. All of those things make Lake Wyola a beautiful place. There are many places that people can go where they can only swim or paddle. Wendell State Forest, Irving, there are places that you can safely swim even on our lake in designated areas like the state beach, on the swim lanes. There are places to do all of that, and I think Lake Wyola is particularly beautiful in that we can both. We have this wide range of activities that we can do on this space. I should have also said, I am one of the committee members, the voting and safety committee member. And I guess I just want to speak to that for a moment. I was one that supported keeping the bylaws as they are, because I think we have so much opportunity for making better what we already do and what we already have in place. Massachusetts state voting laws are really comprehensive, and I think with the new requirement for people to do the voting safety class and be licensed as voters, I think is already one huge step in the right direction. I think we have, and we talked to Chief Burgess about all of the different opportunities for enforcing these current laws in a better, more comprehensive way. So that, and Kathy had spoken a little bit about that too. I feel very strongly that that is really the first step, that we should work with what we already have, make that part better. And then perhaps if that's not enough, then go on to take further steps. As a working mother, there is limited time to enjoy the lake. We're able to use the water for about 2.5 months out of the year. And of those 2.5 months, it's not very many weekends, especially if you throw in some rainy weekends, cold weekends. There is already very limited time to be on that water. And the idea of restricting it further is troublesome, obviously, for a lot of people here. And there are a lot of hours on this lake where it is very, very calm and accessible for all of the activities. So I guess in summary, I think I fully support working with what we have, doing it better. We've come up with so many great
great ideas for education and making the lake a safer place for all of us. I think it's a mistake to think that any of us who did not or who did support the current bylaws, I think it's a mistake to assume that it's because we don't care enough to think about the bigger picture. We've generated so many ideas that we are going to be offering to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I think we have at least one more comment, maybe a couple of comments from people on Zoom. Rory, Miller first.
Hi, my name is Rory Miller. I am on North Laurel Drive. I've been coming there my entire life since about 1982. So my family has been up there for quite a while. We do have a powerboat. Obviously, safety is a huge interest to me because I bring my 9-year-old daughter and my 2 5-year-old boys up there all summer long. And I don't want to see anything happen to them or anybody else on this lake. But I think that's the responsibility of us to teach them how to be safe out there. They're kayaking, they're water skiing, they're kneeboarding. They are out in the canoe. They enjoy the lake and all the aspects of it. And they need to know what it's like to be out there in a rough water just as well as they need to know how to be out in calm water. As long as we're taking the proper steps, giving them life jackets, teaching them how to handle it, turn their boat into the waves, it's a learned experience. It's all part of the lake experience. I mean, if you go out on the ocean, there are waves in the ocean, and they're not caused by boats. I mean, waves happen when it gets windy out there. So safety is just something that needs to be practiced by everybody. It's not something that you can, rule into law with timeshares and other things like that. It's going to be something that everybody just has to believe in and work towards to make it work. Otherwise, no amount of rules is going to force people to be safer. You're just restricting some people for the benefits of others, and that's not fair. I mean, to that effect, I mean, cyclists don't get certain times on the road. They don't turn off the cars on the road so that cyclists can ride. Everybody has to learn to share it and work together. So I appreciate your time. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else here? We have one more. Go ahead.
Hi, folks. My name is John Merrigan, and my wife's family has a property on Gaslight Lane. It's been in their family since the 40s. I grew up on Lake Spofford in New Hampshire, and COVID hit, and Spofford and Wyola got slammed with all kinds of boating participants, and it exploded then, and it became in both lakes, because they had been there at both places, became somewhat scary in terms of reckless boaters and jet skis. But Spofford has a kind of a lake host program where they meet people at the launch, and they provide educational materials. They provide information about the lake, and any questions can be addressed there. And I'm wondering if through the association, if there would be some effort or thoughts to have a volunteer group create such a program, because a lot of, I think, what comes in that concerns people is a lot of it isn't the residents. It's people that are using the lake. And if we can educate them at the launch, and it doesn't have to be every day, but on weekends or during busy times, July 4th, maybe there's a way to help have some impact there. So just a thought. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, John. All right, we are gonna have to, yeah, go ahead, come on up. We got a couple more comments and then we have some concluding comments from folks up here as well. So we're gonna have to start wrapping up. Go ahead.
Hi, Jeff Pickering, long time resident at the lake. My mother and brother both have houses. I live in Amherst. We've been at the lake a long time. My grandmother used to deliver ice to the state beach when she was a little girl, so it's pretty endeared to our family. My thing is I kind of support the current bylaws. I mean, there's always amendments or other changes that can happen, and small details, but I think the big thing is education, and people have to follow the rules. You can make 1,000 rules, but people have to be aware and abide by what exists. So I think, creating multiple, additional restrictions, I can't see the benefit, of adding, too much. We have trade rules, we have, bylaws that exist. And I think it's education and people aware of following it. It's just been a safe lake, there's isolated things, but it's, it's also life. So, that's my 2 cents, and I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you. Ruth, online, you're up if you're listening.
Hi, yeah. Hi, everyone. So, yeah, I'm a homeowner on the lake. I haven't lived there full time in over 20 years. And when I bought the boathouse 20 years ago, I didn't really know what I was getting into, but I enjoy the lake very much. I would love it if there were times that were peaceful, that I could swim and feel like peaceful and safe. But I also, I love my neighbors who have motorboats. And so I want everybody to, be able to use the lake. But I will say, yeah, it's not peaceful lake. When the boathouse was built, I'm sure, like it was peaceful, and wow, wouldn't it be nice to have some times that could be peaceful and safe for non-motorized activity. Not like get rid of the motorboats, but like have some time that could be quiet time for people who want to swim and do non-motorized things. Just, I think that seems like a smart idea. But again, I'm not there full time. I'm just like I'm on the fringe, but I love everybody there. I love the lake, and like us all to be able to enjoy it peacefully at times together. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you. All right, we have time for, excuse me, 1 or 2 more, and then we'll have a couple of concluding comments. No?
Not me, Georgia. The woman that just spoke, that really resonated with me, because that's really, I think, what many of us are looking for that are non-motorized vehicles. We just want some peaceful time. We need to be a lot of time, half a day on a weekend. But we work too, so we got our evenings, we got our weekends. The other thing I just did want to say is that one of my neighbors, Jessica Carey, said that wasn't her paddleboard class. I saw a video of a paddleboard group, and it probably wasn't her class, clearly, but that incident did occur because there's a video of it. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, Chief Burgess, would you like to say a couple of words?
Hi, everybody. Kristen Burgess, Chief of Police here in Shutesbury. First, I want to say that I joke around often with my family at home that my actual residence is my home away from home. I spend a lot of time here. And so I feel I can say that I've never been more proud to be a part of this community after sitting here tonight. That being said, we haven't had the boat out on the water since I have been the chief of police here in Shutesbury. That was the prior police department that had the boat out. For various reasons, and we're working on that. But the most important thing I would just like to say is that adage of if you see something, say something. I can do very little if I don't know that something is happening. I'm very happy to come out and speak to people. I've been in touch with the EPOs. We have been in constant communication about training, about making sure that myself and my staff are trained. They have given us the blessing and are going to be handing us the booklets we need to address the situations that may or may not ever happen. But I am pleading with you. If something happens, I need to know about it. I think you can all trust me that I've proved myself to be a balanced human being that can handle these situations. So please reach out to me. We will, to answer that question, we will enforce if we know what's happening. We will have communication with people. We will have discussions. We will enforce if we need to. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. And Matt, you have the mic.
Sure. So, first off, just like to thank the select board again for, hosting this tonight, Paul, your sunset here. Glad to have you here. Just want to thank everybody for coming out. It was great to hear all of the insight from everybody. It's great to see all of our neighbors and our community coming together. I think it really starts to build a sense of camaraderie with everybody. I took a ton of notes. We're going to go back as a committee. We're going to digest some of this. I think there's some great points that were made throughout the evening. And we all want to continue to do the same thing. We all want a safe lake. We want everybody to enjoy what they like to do. And we're going to find a way to make that happen. We're going to be working on our recommendations. And we will be back to the select board here shortly with what we think of the committee. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Matt. I'd like to thank you all as well. You know, when I said in my opening remarks that, you know, I'd like us to be respectful. I was very pleasantly surprised. I think this was a very respectful discussion tonight, and I thank you all for your part in that. And now I'll turn it over to our select board to wrap things up.
I too want to thank all of you for coming this evening. It's not very often that we get such a great turnout, except for town meetings. So it was really good to hear all the different viewpoints. I certainly have a number of takeaways from this evening. I would encourage folks who had something in writing, if you would like to share that with us. I mean, we had the recording, we've all taken notes, but we're not stenographers. So, you know, if you have something written down, please send it along to us, our email, selectboard.org. As was pointed out by one of the speakers, town meeting is now going to be on May 31st, which is a Saturday, 9 o'clock in this very room. So I hope we see lots of you voters there at the meeting. We look forward to hearing from the voting committee, what progress you've made. Certainly, you know, if there's nothing, the warrant closes, like we finish putting the warrant together for town meeting. That's the list of all the articles. And that will probably be the end of, close to the end of April, maybe the latest, the very beginning of May, because there's a whole process that we have to go through and time. So if there was something to be submitted to town meeting, we would ask that, again, you notify us in advance and get it in by the end of April, if at all possible. So again, I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. Thank Chief Burgess, Matt, Paul, of course, and my fellow select board members. We love night meetings.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah.